Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Shay Explores Daily, and today we've got another video. I am here in sunny London, and behind me I've got one of my favourite museums, the Imperial War Museum here in South London. So this museum here, I'm going to have a look now. It's one of 5 museums that it's got around the country. There's one here, there's one in Trafford in Manchester, and a couple of other sites. So I'm going to go in now, have a look and see what's inside. If you like the video, don't forget, like, comment, share, subscribe. So guys, inside the museum behind me, you're going to see a range of exhibitions from various conflicts, many from the First World War onwards. This wasn't the original site. The original site of this museum was actually in Crystal Palace, further in South London, but it was eventually moved to this site, and we're going to go in now and have a look. So guys, behind me you've got this very cool Land Rover, which was actually used in a operation by a media company, Reuters, in the Palestinian territories. This here was actually hit by an Israeli airstrike, and as you can see, it actually survived it. But very important to note that this vehicle here is obviously not your normal Land Rover. It's obviously made to withstand gunfire and so on. But as you can see here, it is very cool to see. So guys, despite all the damage that you see here, amazingly nobody died. Only 2 people were injured. So as you can see here, you can see the damage, which looks obviously like it was hit by some kind of bullet or something like that, as you can see there. And the exact same thing that happened here as well. You can see the actual damage that this vehicle took as well. So guys, here you've got the remains of a car that was exploded by a bomb in Baghdad in 2007. So guys, behind me we have a Soviet-style tank which was bought by the Czech Republic, I think then sold to Egypt, and then captured by Israel. And as you can see, it's absolutely humongous. This tank has been in this museum, I think, since 1973. Someone in the comments below, can you help me out? Please let me know how much you reckon a tank like this would weigh. What is the rough weight of a tank this size? Please let me know. So guys, behind me you have a Neri gun. This is from the First World War, and it was used in the First World War in 1914, as you can see here. It was used mainly on the battlefields of France by British forces to obviously fight against the Germans. So guys, this area behind me that I'm going to go into now is dedicated to the First World War. So here you can see a timeline of events of the First World War. So you've got Germany here, basically, and Germany essentially invaded Belgium, pretty much, and obviously Britain and France were actually allies as well. So Britain saw a dominant Germany as a threat to Britain's national sovereignty and a threat to peace in Europe as well, hence why war broke out. At this time as well, you got to remember that Britain's empire was huge and vast and spanned, I think, a quarter of the world. So as you can see here, it gives a bit of information regarding it, basically. So in this section you can see paintings of various places that were under the empire. So Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, which is where my family's from, and it goes further and further, as you can see. So you've got some people somewhere else, not sure where that is. And then I think this, I believe, looks like India or somewhere in the Indian subcontinent. So as you can see, as it says here, the British Empire at the time spanned 13 million square miles and had about 435 million people living inside of it at the time of World War I. So here you can see various pieces from the war. So down there you can see like a bullet. Then you've got like a helmet from a soldier, and also as well you've got things such as, I believe that's a shrapnel shell basically over there. So you can see directly the effects that the war had on general people and what they faced. This section here speaks about the First Battle of Ypres, where essentially that was the first major conflict between British and French forces and the Germans during the First World War. There was about 90,000 casualties during that particular part of the First World War. For a lot of people, World War I saw a huge amount of patriotism that had never been seen before in Britain at any other time for any war. And here you've got a section regarding everyone who joined the war effort, including children as well. So you can see here all these bits about that. And as you can see, you've got the advert there which was originally used by the Germans, but obviously it's been switched to say Britain. So guys, as you can see here, you had to be at least 5'3" to essentially join the army during the First World War. And this, like this measuring stick here thing, you can move it and it goes all the way up to about 7 feet. So pretty much I'm guessing this is what they used to see if someone was tall enough to essentially join the war efforts. So 5'3" is here. And yeah, I definitely make the grade for the height for sure, basically. But as you can see, it tells you how important it was to get the right people on the front line fighting during the war, because it was a massive conflict, massive war that was happening, and people knew it. People knew that it was either you fight or you surrender. Here you've got various examples of armor that was used in the trenches by soldiers, and as you can see here, you can see a huge variety of things. It is important to remember that although the First World War, yes, started in Europe, it was actually fought on a global front in air, land and sea. So places like Africa, Oceania, the Caribbean, etc., and also eventually the USA were also drawn into the war, and it became a fully fledged global conflict or global war. Here you can see a map of the North Atlantic Ocean and all the vessels that were in the Atlantic at one time, or all of the various trips that were made. So up there you can see obviously Britain and Europe, the UK, and obviously you've got the Caribbean colonies, you've got the USA, and obviously you've got South America and Africa as well. Essentially, pretty much ships made constant crossings across the ocean to give supplies and food to various other countries, to basically supply soldiers. It was quite risky as well, because in the Atlantic there was also battles as well, and German submarines were known to actually attack ships in the Atlantic as well also. So this is a sea mine, so basically like a bomb that was laid by the Germans, by a German submarine in the Thames estuary, essentially designed that should a British ship pass over it, it would explode and kill pretty much whoever is on that ship. Throughout the war, guys, throughout the war, over 14,000 sea merchants died at sea, especially during the 1917 U-boat campaign. Many of them died at sea all over the world, sadly. So guys, this section here is meant to be a rough example of what life was like in the trenches. And as you can see, the trenches were quite high, taller than me. I'm about 5'10". So you can see how deep the trenches were and exactly what kind of stuff went on down here. So guys, as you see behind me, I'm going to this section now. I'm on the first floor. This is dedicated to the Second World War. It also gives context as to what caused the Second World War as well. So as you can see, in places like Japan and Germany and Italy, essentially new sort of like nationalist leaders were sort of popping up and sort of want to take control globally. So this here is a Tasman fishing boat, and this is, I think it's a replica, but it's a replica of one of the 900 used to rescue Allied forces on the beaches of Dunkirk. So this would have included like British forces, I think some French, maybe some Americans as well. But as you can see here, this is pretty much what it looked like. Now, as you can imagine, the chaos for trying to get heavy people with heavy equipment onto these. So here you can see like a Norwegian flag with a swastika. So the story behind this is that in 1940 the Germans invaded Norway, and if you see my Norway video you would have known that the Germans invaded Norway and essentially took it over. And Norway was a huge point between the UK and the Soviet Union, because Norway was essentially where the British and Soviets who used to exchange supplies passed Norway to each other. So it was a very important and strategic route. Once the invasion had an outbreak in Norway, Norway's king left Norway and ran across the North Sea to London, where he stayed for the duration of the war until the German surrender. But Britain, Soviet Union and a couple other countries played a huge part alongside Norway soldiers in the liberation of Norway. Here you've got a section about Britain's colonies overseas and the roles that they played, and also the USA as well. So here you can see a section about Japan's invasion or attack on Pearl Harbor, as you can see, and you can see how it made front page news over in the USA, and you can learn about what happened on that sad day. As I mentioned previously, you can see some bits about the convoys across the oceans. So behind me you'll see this table here behind me, very cool, and it's got a bit about rationing during the Second World War. So as we all know, food was in short supply during the war, supply chains were disrupted, so people who were back home not fighting had their basic foods rationed. People learnt to harvest and grow foods in the meantime, but as you can see here, it's a rough example of how things were rationed during the Second World War. And how can you sadly talk about World War II without talking about the Holocaust, one of the saddest events to ever take place on Earth? And as you can see, this bit is a dedication to what happened in the Holocaust and all the victims that were sadly killed. And as you can see here, there's a bit about when the war ended in 1945, when Hitler finally surrendered, and then his main ally Japan also surrenders as well. And here you can see a little movie about VE Day, Victory Day in Europe and around the world, as you can see here. And obviously here the US dropped the atomic bombs on the Japanese Empire in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, essentially pretty much forcing them to surrender. So if you follow me for a long time, if you've been following me, you know that this is very special to me. This is a memorial to the Windrush generation who came to Britain shortly after the Second World War to essentially work. It was the first wave of many immigrants from the Caribbean who came over, including my grandparents. So this here that you can see going all the way down the hallway, for me is very personal, and it means the world. Here you've got a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, which was used to power, I think, over 150,000 aircrafts during the Second World War. So guys, if you come to the second floor, you've got the Holocaust galleries, and it is very interesting and it's got lots of information, but I'm not allowed to actually film in there or take any photos. So out of respect for the victims and their families, I won't do it. But if you do come up here, come to the second floor and have a look at it. So this here is an American Willys MB Jeep, which was used a lot by British soldiers during the Second World War. Over 300,000 of these were essentially given to the British Red Cross and so on and so forth to use. So guys, as you can see here, after the Second World War, essentially the world began to essentially rebuild pretty much. And Britain essentially went from the Empire to the Commonwealth, and many countries slowly started getting their independence from the UK. But as you can see, they still remain very close ties to Britain due to the historical ties that they have. Also as well, you can see a bit here, all here regarding the Falkland Islands and obviously the conflict itself, the war. You can see a map of the Falklands here, West Falkland and East Falkland, and it was fought between the UK and Argentina over the sovereignty of the islands, which Britain, the UK, obviously did win. On this map here, you get a rough idea of the distance from the Falklands is from the UK. It's about 8,000 miles. So the actual logistical challenge of getting troops and equipment from Britain down to the Falklands was a very big one. Behind me is an army patrol vehicle that was used in the Troubles in Northern Ireland. Now, the Troubles was quite unique because British soldiers were used to essentially fighting battles in foreign lands, but they weren't used to defending their own streets. And in the Troubles, it was tricky because there was many enemy combatants who lived amongst the normal population. So it's kind of hard to see who they were because they lived amongst the communities. Thankfully, the Troubles are now over, they're not happening anymore. But this was the kind of vehicle that was used by British forces to essentially keep peace pretty much in Northern Ireland. So guys, if you come outside the museum, right in front of it you have the Tibetan Peace Gardens. Now this garden here was opened by the Dalai Lama himself back in 1999. It's pretty much a sign of friendship between Britain and the Dalai Lama and the people of Tibet. So as you can see, it's a really cool area. People lounge around, sit around and so on. But yeah, it's right here basically. That is it guys for today's video. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. I've got many more cool videos coming. Let me know where should I go next. But in the meantime, I'll see you soon on the next video. Thank you very much.